Hi, I'm Mima. I'm a grandma and a mom, and I'm back for chapter 4 of The Adventures of Sophie Mouse, a New Friend. This is a great book that was recommended by Freckles. Thank you, Freckles. So let's get right into chapter 4. First day jitters. Sophie glanced at Hattie, who was sitting behind her. So beside her means right next to her, right? But behind her means in the back, behind her there. Their eyes met. Sophie could tell that Hattie was just as nervous and surprised as she was. A real snake in real life, Sophie thought. She'd never seen one before. She bet none of her classmates had either. "Come in, Owen," Mrs. Wise said to him warmly. "Find a seat." Everyone watched as Owen respectfully took off his brimmed cap. Then he slithered up the center aisle. He passed up an empty desk next to Sophie's. She breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't want to be rude, but she didn't know if she wanted Owen to sit next to her either. Some of Sophie's ideas about snakes came from books, but most had come from stories, spooky stories that older animals told about poisonous sea snakes or hissing ghost snakes. Can you hiss? Surely they couldn't be true, could they? So here's a picture of him going past her desk. Owen found a desk. Oh, and these are the thoughts that she had of scary snakes. Owen found a desk in an empty row. Mrs. Wise began the math lesson. Other students took out their notebooks. Sophie got hers out too. Okay, a snake in class, she thought. No big deal, I guess. Then, during reading time, Sophie heard a psst. She looked up. Owen was leaning toward Zoe's desk, which was in front of his. He was trying to get her attention, but Zoe was lost in her book. Here's a picture of that. Owen said, "Psst," a little louder. Zoe didn't hear. "Psst," he said loudly. Startled, Zoe fluttered up and out of her seat, turning to glare at Owen. "Why are you hissing at me?" she demanded. Owen cleared his throat. "Your bookmark is on the floor," he said. His voice was a little raspy, but gentle. Zoe picked up her bookmark and sat down. "Oh," she said quietly, "thanks." At recess, Owen passed by the swing set and accidentally swatted the swing James was on with the end of his tail. The swing went flying way too high. Here's a picture of that. "Whoa!" James cried out. "Help me!" he shouted. James' brother Ben hurried over to help him down. As he did, Ben snapped at Owen, "You need to be more careful." Owen looked very embarrassed. "Sorry," he said quietly. "It was an accident." He slithered over to a bench and coiled up all alone. Sophie saw it all from across the yard. She was playing hopscotch with Hattie, Lighty, and Willie. "Hey," Sophie said to them, "should we ask Owen to play?" Willie shrugged, but said nothing. Lighty didn't seem so sure. "Can snakes even hop?" she asked. Hattie patted Sophie on the back. "I think it's a good idea," she said. "But I'm afraid to ask him. You ask him." Sophie took a deep breath. She started walking over to the bench. Here's when they're talking about it. And there he is, all coiled up all by himself. So she started walking over to the bench, and then Owen looked up and saw her coming. Sophie lost her nerve and turned around. "Silly Sophie," she scolded herself. "Why are you so nervous?" She tried to work up the courage to try again. But before she could, recess was over and it was time to go inside. After school, Sophie and Winston got ready to walk home together. "So what did you think of school?" Sophie asked her brother as they walked out the door. Winston replied excitedly, "It's so fun! I get to sit next to James. I get my very own desk. I like Mrs. Wise." Winston went on, but Sophie didn't hear the rest. Outside the schoolhouse, she saw Owen being greeted by another snake, probably his mom. Here's a picture of that. Sophie imagined that Owen's mom was asking Owen about his day at school, and Owen did not look happy at all. And that's the end of chapter 4. I hope you'll come back again to hear chapter 5. And just remember, I love you. Bye. See you for chapter 5.